It's clear that Putin and those who are around him are getting desperate. They've misjudged the Ukrainian resilience and will to resist, and they need a win on the ground. They haven't had one yet. So we're seeing the Russians be more methodical, and they've engaged now in what is a grinding war of attrition in the north and the east of the country, including the bombardment of civilians in cities.
So how important is it to the overall strategy of Russia to take Kiev, and why haven't they made a move so far?
Well, both sides now see Kiev as a very important part of their strategies for Ukraine. It's where the president is, and it's the symbol of Ukrainian resistance overall. So it's important for the Ukrainians to retain it. For the Russians, they've assigned high political value to it because, once again, it's where the centre of Ukrainian resistance is. It's where the Ukrainian president is, who clearly Putin wants to be out of the way. So they will seek to surround it and potentially attack the city over the next week or so.
If and when Kyiv falls, would that mark victory for Russia?
I don't think so. It would be potentially a battlefield victory, but it would be a Pyrrhic victory. The Ukrainians are going to resist them every step of the way. So the only thing the Russians would be ruling in the wake of the capture of Kiev would be rubble. The Ukrainians are not going to give up if they do lose Kiev, but I don't think that is a certainty at this point in time.
Do you detect then a change of strategy in that Russia is now focusing on Ukraine's cities? We saw similar tactics in Kharkiv as well as what's going on the outskirts of the capital, Kiev. And if there is a change of strategy to focus on the cities of Ukraine, does that make sense?
It will make sense to some, but it is professionally corrupt for a military to engage in these kind of tactics, and it's highly unethical and obviously goes against international law for the indiscriminate targeting of civilians. But this is a playbook the Russians used in Syria. It's a playbook they've been using in places like Kharkiv, as you referred to, and also around Mariupol and other places. The Russians, as I said, are in a rush. This has taken much longer than they ever anticipated, and they want these battles over. The Ukrainians aren't going to allow that, so the Russians are engaging in systemic terrorism against Ukrainian civilians in the hope that this will force a capitulation from the president of Ukraine. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right, so if besieging cities is the strategy, then how does that play out? What decides who comes out on top?
Well, we're just going to see a lot more destruction and death on both sides, Ros. It means this will take much, much longer. And frankly, there's no certainties in war, and predicting whether one side or the other will win each city is less useful than looking at this in the medium term, which is that Russia now cannot win the war in Ukraine. Any victory that it might claim is over the deaths of thousands of Ukrainians and the destruction of the country. That in any way cannot be considered a victory.
Has the level of the Ukrainian resistance on the ground surprised you, Mick?
Not really. They're defending their country. There's nothing that the Russian government can offer the people of Ukraine and the Ukrainian government. I mean, the people of Ukraine have got a taste of freedom and democracy. They know they won't have that under the Russians. So why wouldn't they defend it? We would. Australians would do exactly the same thing. They would fight for their rights. They'd fight for their freedom. And to be quite frank, the Ukrainian military has outfought and outthought the Russians at almost every step of this war so far.
So what does that mean for the future?
Well, it means this is going to keep going on and on. There is no quick end to what we're seeing here. The Ukrainians are not going to give up easily, and the Russians, who have now committed just about all the combat power they assembled before the war, are running out of options to seize the country. I see it quickly reaching almost some form of stalemate in the coming weeks if there isn't some kind of breakthrough on the part of the Russians.
A breakthrough would entail what?
Probably the capture of Kiev, but all that breakthrough would see is the Ukrainians shifting to a wider insurgency to continue defending their nation.
This is the whole invasion. Is it unfolding as you had expected it would, Mick?
I think there have been quite a few surprises for all of us in this. The Ukrainians have just been amazing in how stout they've been in defence of their country, and the Ukrainian people in how they've rallied around their president and how their president have led them, really I think has electrified the world in many respects. I think the Russians have also been very surprised by the massive reaction by the international community to come together and provide aid to Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. So on both sides, I think there have been a few surprises, and I think there's probably a few more surprises to come yet.
Okay, and do you think the Ukrainians are getting enough military help from outside the country?
Well, it's hard to see what's actually crossing the borders every single day, but I mean, there's lots of news reports of the amount of material that the Americans, Europeans, even Australia is sending to European countries for transshipment by air and by road into Ukraine. My sense is that the West is sending as much as it possibly can from its current stocks to the Ukrainians, and the numbers of anti-air and anti-tank missiles that are going in there at the moment truly is astounding. These will make a difference.